Hi, I'm Olivia Smith, 33 years old, living in Denver and working as a marketing manager at Pinnacle Marketing Group. I grew up believing family came first, no matter what. My parents drilled that into me from the time I could understand words. Blood is thicker than water, Mom would say. Family protects family, Dad would echo. I believed them. I lived by those words. But one night, after my sister broke my rib, everything changed. I was sitting on the cold floor of our family home, clutching my side, pain radiating through my body with each breath, as Mom laughed and said, "Don't call the cops. It'll ruin her life." What they didn't know is that I wasn't going to be their victim anymore. What I did next turned my whole world upside down, and theirs too. Growing up as the eldest daughter in the Smith family looked picture perfect from the outside. Our colonial-style home in the suburbs, family vacations to Florida every summer, and holiday cards featuring all of us in matching sweaters told one story. The reality behind closed doors told another. From the moment my sister Ashley was born when I was 4, the dynamic shifted. She was the miracle baby, the one who came after Mom's 2 miscarriages, the golden child with her perfect blonde curls and bright blue eyes. I loved her fiercely at first. What big sister wouldn't? I'd read her bedtime stories and let her follow me around the neighborhood. But as we grew, I began to notice the differences in how we were treated. When I got straight A's, it was expected. When Ashley brought home C's, she got ice cream for trying her best. When I won first place in the science fair, Dad nodded approvingly. When Ashley participated and came in 12th, Mom and Dad took her out for a celebratory dinner. "Your sister needs more encouragement," they'd explain when I asked why I wasn't invited. By high school, the pattern was firmly established. I was the reliable one, the responsible one, the one who would be fine no matter what. Ashley was fragile, special, needed protecting. I channeled my hurt into achievement, graduating valedictorian and earning a full scholarship to college. Ashley barely graduated but got a brand new car from our parents because she needed something to feel proud of. The pattern continued into adulthood. I built my career carefully, starting as an intern and working my way up to marketing manager at Pinnacle. Meanwhile, Ashley decided she wanted to be an influencer. She started an Instagram account posting about fashion, beauty, and her luxurious lifestyle, mostly funded by our parents. Somehow, she managed to gain a following. Her perfectly filtered life attracted people who didn't know the reality. 5 years ago, things took a turn from merely unfair to actively damaging. Ashley got engaged to Chad, a slick investment banker with perfect teeth and a Mercedes he couldn't really afford. They wanted a lavish wedding, something Instagram-worthy. "Olivia, can you help us out?" Ashley had asked, her voice honey-sweet over the phone. "It's just a loan until Chad's bonus comes through. $15,000. Money I'd been saving for a down payment on a condo. But family comes first, right?" "Of course," I said, "but I'll need it back by December." "Absolutely, you're the best sister ever." December came and went, then January, February. When I finally asked about the money in March, Ashley's voice turned cold. "We're family. Olivia, I can't believe you're being so petty about money. Chad's bonus was smaller than expected. Do you know how stressful it is trying to build a brand while being a newlywed?" When I brought it up to Mom, hoping for some support, she sighed heavily. "You'll never be as successful as Ashley, so stop trying. You have a steady job. She's building something special. You should be proud to help her instead of counting pennies." That stung, not just the dismissal of my career, which was objectively more successful than posting filtered photos of brunch, but the confirmation that in their eyes, I would always matter less. The pattern continued. Ashley's wedding loan was never repaid, but that was just the beginning. There were the emergency requests for money when she and Chad were short on rent despite their luxurious lifestyle posts. The time she borrowed my credit card for just one purchase and racked up thousands in charges. The constant belittling of my achievements compared to her growing follower count. Then came the workplace sabotage. Ashley had somehow befriended the wife of our company's VP. At a corporate event I'd worked months to organize, Ashley told the VP's wife that I'd been talking badly about him behind his back. Pure fiction. But it resulted in a formal reprimand and nearly cost me a promotion. When confronted, Ashley cried and claimed she'd been misunderstood. Mom and Dad backed her up, telling me I needed to be more careful about how I came across to people. Last year, on my 32nd birthday, Ashley showed up to my small celebration dinner 2 hours late, bringing along 3 friends I'd never met, who proceeded to drink the expensive champagne I'd bought. When I expressed frustration, Ashley caused a scene. "You're too sensitive," she snapped. "We're just trying to make your sad little dinner more fun. God, why are you always so uptight?" Mom nodded along. Dad looked uncomfortable, but said nothing. My birthday ended with me paying the bill for 11 people instead of the 4 I'd planned for, while Ashley posted pictures captioned, "Saving my big sis's birthday. Someone had to bring the fun. #sister life #birthday rescue." Through it all, I maintained a facade. Perfect, responsible Olivia, who always had it together. The truth was more complicated. While my family saw me as nothing more than the reliable daughter they could take advantage of, I'd been quietly building something they knew nothing about. 4 years ago, I started a side business, Cozy Crafts, an online boutique selling handmade home goods. What began as a therapeutic outlet for my frustration quickly grew into something substantial. I worked on it every evening after my marketing job, every weekend, turning my small apartment's 2nd bedroom into a studio. I reinvested every penny of profit for the first 2 years. By year 3, I was making more from Cozy Crafts than from my day job, but I told no one in my family. I knew exactly what would happen if they found out. I also made some smart early investments in tech companies, following advice from a financial podcast I'd discovered. My portfolio grew steadily. I became a silent partner in a new restaurant in downtown Denver. Then 2 more. I even patented a small tech invention, a unique crafting tool that I developed for my own use but that turned out to have commercial appeal. To my family, I was still just Olivia with the nice, stable job, the one who lived in a modest apartment and drove a reliable Honda, the one who could be counted on for loans and emotional support, but wasn't worth celebrating or protecting. I might have continued this double life indefinitely if not for what happened this September. Mom and Dad still lived in Connecticut, in the house where we grew up. Ashley and Chad had moved there too, into a house just 10 minutes away that our parents helped them buy. I flew in from Denver about 4 times a year for obligatory family visits. That September weekend was supposedly to celebrate Dad's retirement. The dinner was at Oakwood Country Club, a place my parents couldn't really afford, but had stretched to join years ago for the social connections. I arrived alone, as usual, while Ashley and Chad made their grand entrance 30 minutes late, her designer dress and his custom suit drawing admiring glances. The evening started with the usual dynamic, Ashley dominating the conversation, our parents hanging on her every word, me sitting quietly nursing a glass of wine. Then Ashley dropped her bomb. "So, I've been meaning to ask," she said, her voice carrying deliberately to nearby tables. "What did you do with Grandma's inheritance money?" "Olivia?" I froze. "What are you talking about?" "The $25,000 Grandma left you in her will, the same amount she left me." Ashley's eyes glittered. "Except I never got mine. Mom and Dad never got theirs either." My heart raced. There was no inheritance money. Ashley, Grandma left her house to Mom and Dad. That was it. "That's not what her lawyer said." Ashley's voice grew louder. "He told me Grandma left money for all of us, but you were the executor. You must have kept it all for yourself." Heads turned at nearby tables. My cheeks burned. "That's absolutely not true," I said, struggling to keep my voice steady. "Grandma's estate went through probate. Everything was properly distributed according to her will." "Then why did her lawyer tell me differently?" Ashley pressed. "What lawyer? What's his name?" I challenged. Ashley faltered for a split second before recovering. "I don't remember off the top of my head, but he contacted me." Mom was looking between us, her brow furrowed. Dad shifted uncomfortably. "Ashley, If there was money, I'm sure Olivia wouldn't have kept it from us, Dad said, but his tone lacked conviction. Would she, though? Ashley countered. She's always been jealous of me. Maybe this was her way of getting back at all of us. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This was a complete fabrication, a lie so bold it took my breath away. And yet, I could see doubt creeping into my parents' expressions. That's ridiculous, I said. Grandma's will was clear. I have copies of all the documents if you want to see them. Convenient that you have all the paperwork, Ashley sniffed. That's when our cousin Emma, who'd been seated at a nearby table with her husband, approached. Everything okay over here? She asked, glancing between us. Just fine, Ashley said quickly. Family discussion. Emma lingered, looking at me with concern. Actually, Olivia, could I borrow you for a minute? There's something I wanted to ask you about. Grateful for the interruption, I excused myself and followed Emma to the bar. I overheard, she said quietly, and I thought you should know something. Last month at Aunt Janet's birthday, Ashley was bragging about how she was going to put you in your place at the next family gathering. She said something about making up a story that would turn your parents against you. I didn't think much of it then. You know how she can be when she's had a few drinks. But listening just now, my stomach dropped. She planned this? Emma nodded. I'm sorry. I should have warned you. I thanked Emma and returned to the table, a new kind of anger simmering inside me. But before I could say anything, Ashley was already spinning a new tale. I just got a text from Grandma's lawyer, she announced, waving her phone. He confirms it was $25,000 each. That's $100,000 you've kept from us. Olivia. Let me see that text, I demanded, reaching for her phone. Ashley pulled it away. It's private. If it's about me stealing money, it's not private. Show me the text. Ashley. Don't talk to your sister that way, Mom snapped. You believe her? I asked incredulously. This ridiculous story with no evidence? Why would she make it up? Mom countered. Because she's always been jealous of me, I said, throwing Ashley's own words back at her. Because she can't stand that I've built a life without needing handouts. Ashley's face contorted with rage. How dare you, after everything we've done for you? What exactly have you done for me, Ashley? Borrowed money you never repaid? Sabotaged my career? Made every family gathering about you? That's enough, Dad interjected, but neither of us was listening. You think you're so perfect, Ashley hissed. Miss Independent with your boring job and your sad little apartment. You have no idea what it takes to build a brand, to put yourself out there every day like I do. At least I actually work for what I have instead of mooching off our parents and posting fake luxury pictures online. The argument escalated, drawing stares from throughout the restaurant. Ashley stood up, gesturing wildly, knocking over a glass that shattered on the floor. I stood too, refusing to be literally looked down upon any longer. What happened next occurred in a blur. Ashley lunged at me, grabbing my arm. I pulled away. She shoved me hard, and I stumbled backward, tripping over a chair and falling against the edge of a serving cart. A sharp pain exploded in my side as I crumpled to the floor. The restaurant fell silent. I lay there, struggling to breathe, each inhale sending shockwaves of pain through my body. Olivia? Dad's voice seemed distant. Are you okay? I wasn't okay. I couldn't catch my breath. The pain was intense, unlike anything I'd felt before. I think she's faking, Ashley said, but there was a note of uncertainty in her voice. I need help, I managed to gasp. I think something's broken. Mom finally approached, kneeling beside me. Can you stand up? This is embarrassing. Call an ambulance, I wheezed. That's when Mom did something I'll never forget. She laughed, a short, dismissive laugh. Don't be dramatic, and don't even think about calling the cops. It would ruin Ashley's life. In that moment, something crystallized inside me. The pain in my side was excruciating, but it was nothing compared to the clarity that washed over me. For 33 years, I had been the family doormat, the reliable one who would always forgive, always help, always put family first, and in return, They couldn't even call an ambulance when I was injured on a restaurant floor. Dad finally helped me up and drove me to the emergency room, where X-rays confirmed what I already suspected: a fractured rib. The doctor asked how it happened. Dad quickly interjected before I could answer. "She fell. Tripped over a chair at dinner." I said nothing, just watched him lie to protect Ashley. Again. Later that night, alone in my old bedroom at my parents' house, I sat in my car in the driveway, unable to face going back inside. It was 11:42 p.m. I'd been given painkillers at the hospital, but they barely touched the physical pain and did nothing for the deeper wound that had been torn open tonight. I thought about the business I'd built in secret, the investments that had grown, the partnerships I'd formed, the life I'd created for myself while still allowing my family to treat me like a second-class citizen. Why? Because of some misguided loyalty to the idea that family comes first? My phone buzzed with a text from Ashley. "Way to ruin Dad's retirement dinner with your drama. Mom and Dad are upset with you." That was the moment I decided. No more. Family might come first, but I needed to redefine what family meant. It wasn't these people who had shown time and again that they valued me only for what I could give them. It wasn't the sister who had physically injured me and then made herself the victim. It wasn't the mother who laughed at my pain or the father who lied to protect my abuser. I drove to a hotel that night, my side throbbing with each movement. In the quiet of the room, I began to formulate a plan, not just to extricate myself from their toxicity, but to ensure they could never hurt me, or anyone else, again. The next morning, I changed my flight and returned to Denver early. Citing a work emergency, no one questioned it. No one asked how I was feeling. Once home, I began gathering evidence. Years of text messages from Ashley asking for money, bank transfers, emails, the medical report from the emergency room. I had more ammunition than I realized. 2 days later, I made an appointment with Morrison & Associates, one of Denver's top law firms. The lawyer listened intently as I laid out my story, occasionally taking notes. "What exactly do you want to accomplish here, Ms. Smith?" he asked when I finished. "I want protection," I said. "I want to make sure they can't hurt me financially or otherwise, and I want them to face consequences for what they've done." "I understand. We can pursue a civil case for the assault and for the financial issues, but I have to ask, are you prepared for what this will mean for your relationship with your family?" I thought about Mom's laugh as I lay injured, about Ashley's text blaming me for causing drama after she broke my rib, about Dad lying to the doctor. "What relationship?" I replied. "They've shown me exactly how much I mean to them." Over the next few weeks, I worked with the law firm to build my case. I also learned that Ashley and Chad were planning a lavish engagement party. Yes, an engagement party nearly 5 years after the actual engagement. Apparently, they were renewing their commitment before trying for a baby. The party was scheduled for October 15th at the Fairmont Hotel in Chicago, a central location for family and friends flying in from across the country. Perfect. During this time, I also confided in my boss, Diana Patterson, a brilliant marketing executive who had mentored me for years. She had overheard many of Ashley's manipulative calls to me at the office and had witnessed firsthand how the sabotage affected my work. Diana not only offered her support, but suggested I take some time off to focus on healing, both physically and emotionally. "Your job will be here when you're ready," she assured me. "Take care of yourself first." With Diana's blessing, I took a 3-week leave of absence. I told my family it was for a special project at work that required my full attention. In reality, I was preparing for the confrontation that would change everything. The day of Ashley's engagement party arrived. I flew to Chicago that morning, checked into the Fairmont, and spent hours getting ready. I wore a custom-designed dress in deep emerald that complemented my auburn hair, paid for with my own money, from my own successful business. I wore my grandmother's earrings, the real ones she had left specifically to me, not the costume jewelry Ashley had claimed were family heirlooms she deserved. I arrived at the Crystal Ballroom precisely on time. The room was decorated lavishly, white roses everywhere, crystal chandeliers sparkling, champagne flowing freely. About 150 guests milled about, many of them influencers and social media personalities Ashley had cultivated relationships with. My parents stood proudly near Ashley and Chad, greeting guests and beaming with pride. No one noticed me at first. I moved quietly through the crowd, nodding politely to distant relatives who did double takes, clearly surprised to see me there. I had RSVP'd no to the official invitation, citing work commitments. I made my way to the tech booth at the back of the room, where I had arranged with the hotel's event staff to access the audio-visual equipment. At precisely 8:30 p.m., when Ashley and Chad were scheduled to make their speech, I took control of the microphone. "Good evening, everyone," I said, my voice echoing through the ballroom. "For those who don't know me, I'm Olivia Smith, Ashley's sister." The crowd turned toward me, confusion evident on many faces. Ashley's expression shifted from surprise to alarm. "I wasn't planning to be here tonight," I continued, "but recent events have made it impossible for me to stay silent any longer. Before we celebrate Ashley and Chad's renewed engagement, there are some things you should know." I nodded to the tech operator, and the large projection screen behind me lit up with the first image, my hospital x-ray, showing the fractured rib, dated September 10th. 5 weeks ago, my sister physically assaulted me at a family dinner, resulting in this injury. When I was lying on the floor in pain, my mother laughed and told me not to call the police because it would ruin Ashley's life. Gasps rippled through the crowd. My parents' faces had drained of color. Ashley was frantically whispering to Chad. "But that was just the culmination of years of abuse and exploitation. Let me show you more." The screen changed to display text messages from Ashley, requesting loans with promises to repay, followed by later messages dismissing or denying those same loans. Bank transfers showing money moving from my account to hers. Emails where she threatened to turn our parents against me if I didn't help her financially. Over the past 5 years, I've loaned my sister over $40,000 that was never repaid. I've been subject to emotional manipulation, gaslighting, and most recently, physical violence. I advanced to the next slide. The statement from Grandma's estate lawyer confirming the exact distribution of assets, proving there had never been any inheritance money Ashley accused me of stealing. Last month, Ashley publicly accused me of stealing $25,000 from each family member from our grandmother's will. This document proves that was a complete fabrication. The room was deathly quiet now. Several of Ashley's influencer friends had their phones out, recording everything. I noticed one was live streaming. For years, I've been the family scapegoat, the reliable one who could be taken advantage of because family comes first. I believed that. I lived by it. But I've learned that real family doesn't treat each other this way. I looked directly at Ashley, whose face had contorted with rage and fear. "This is fake," she shouted. "She's making this all up because she's jealous. She's always been jealous of me." I remained calm. "Everything I've shown has documentation. Everything can be verified. This isn't about jealousy, Ashley. It's about accountability." Dad stepped forward. "Olivia, sweetheart, let's discuss this privately. This isn't the place." "No, Dad. You've had years to discuss this privately. You've had years to stand up for me. Instead, you lied to an emergency room doctor to protect Ashley after she injured me. You've enabled her behavior. You've chosen her over me every single time." From the corner of the room, my Aunt Margaret stood up. "I always suspected something was off in your family dynamics. Linda," she said, addressing my mother, "the way you talked about your daughters was unbalanced, but I had no idea it was this bad." More relatives began murmuring, pieces falling into place for them. Years of odd interactions, of Ashley's grandiose stories that didn't quite add up, of my quiet acceptance of being sidelined. Mom finally found her voice. "Olivia, how could you do this to your sister? To this family? We've always supported you." I laughed then, not a happy sound. "Supported me? When? When you told me I'd never be as successful as Ashley? When you dismissed my career? When you laughed as I lay injured on a restaurant floor?" The projection changed to a video clip. Security footage from the country club showing the altercation. Ashley shoving me falling hard against the serving cart. I'd had to pay a substantial sum to obtain that footage, but it was worth every penny to see the expressions change on the guests' faces as they witnessed the truth. "I'm not here for revenge," I said, though of course, that wasn't entirely true. "I'm here for justice and for closure. I filed a civil lawsuit against Ashley for assault and financial fraud. I've provided all evidence to the appropriate authorities, and now, I'm removing myself from this toxic family dynamic permanently." I looked around the room, at the shocked faces, at my sister's rage, at my parents' disbelief. "I've built a successful life that none of you know about because I knew you would try to exploit it. I own a thriving business. I have investments worth millions. I'm a partner in multiple successful ventures. I did all of this while you were dismissing me as the boring, reliable sister who would never amount to much." Ashley's face shifted from anger to disbelief, then to a calculating look I recognized all too well. She was already thinking about how she could benefit from this revelation. "Don't bother," I said directly to her. "My lawyers have already protected all my assets. There will be no more loans, no more handouts, no more exploitation." I turned to address the entire room. "Thank you for your attention. Enjoy the rest of your evening." With that, I stepped away from the microphone and walked toward the exit. The room erupted in chaos behind me. I could hear Ashley screaming, Chad trying to calm the situation, my parents making excuses to shocked guests, but I didn't look back. For the first time in my life, I was walking away from the toxicity instead of trying to fix it. Outside in the hotel corridor, I took a deep breath, wincing slightly at the lingering pain in my rib. A sense of lightness washed over me. Despite the gravity of what I'd just done, I had finally stood up for myself. I had finally put myself first. My phone immediately began buzzing with notifications. News travels fast in the age of social media, and several of the influencers in attendance had indeed been live streaming. Ashley Smith. Exposed was already trending. Her carefully crafted online persona was crumbling in real time. I turned off my phone. That wasn't my concern anymore. Back in my hotel room, I ordered room service, took my pain medication, and slept more soundly than I had in years. The following days were a whirlwind. Ashley lost thousands of followers overnight as the video clips spread across social media. Her sponsors began dropping her one by one. Chad, whose investment career depended heavily on appearances and connections, found himself suddenly toxic by association. My parents called and texted incessantly, first with anger and accusations, then with guilt trips and pleas, finally with grudging apologies that never quite acknowledged the full extent of their behavior. I let their messages go to voicemail. My lawyers were handling all communication now. The lawsuit proceeded. Ashley hired an expensive attorney who tried to paint me as the aggressor, but the country club footage and medical records told a different story. We eventually settled out of court, Ashley and Chad paying a substantial sum for the assault, medical expenses, and unpaid loans. Mom and Dad's marriage, already strained by years of focusing on Ashley's needs above all else, couldn't withstand the public humiliation and private reckonings. They filed for divorce 4 weeks after the engagement party. Dad moved to Florida to live near his brother. Mom stayed in Connecticut, still trying to fix things for Ashley, whose influencer career was in shambles. As for me, I finally went public with Cozy Crafts, no longer needing to hide my success. I expanded the business, hired a team, and opened a physical store in Denver. I sold my partnership stakes in 2 of the 3 restaurants for a handsome profit and invested in new ventures. I even started mentoring young entrepreneurs, particularly women escaping toxic family situations. I moved from my modest apartment to a beautiful loft downtown. I bought a new car, not because I needed to show off, but because I deserved something that brought me joy. I started therapy to process the years of emotional abuse and to build healthier boundaries for the future. In January, I decided Denver held too many memories. I relocated to Seattle, where Cozy Crafts' Pacific Northwest aesthetic was an even better fit. I bought a house overlooking Puget Sound, with a dedicated studio space for product development and a guest room that would only ever host people who genuinely cared about me. The family I was born into had failed me, so I created a new one. Diana, my former boss, remained a close friend and mentor. Emma, the cousin who had warned me at the country club, moved to Seattle for a job opportunity, and we reconnected on new, healthier terms. I made friends who valued me for who I was, not what I could provide. In February, I attended a business conference for creative entrepreneurs. During a panel discussion about authentic branding, I shared a bit of my story, how hiding my success had ultimately been detrimental to both my business and my personal life. Afterward, a man approached me. "That was powerful," he said, extending his hand. "I'm James Thorpe. I run a small business incubator for artisans and craftspeople." James was tall, with kind eyes and a genuine smile. We talked for hours that evening, about business models and marketing strategies at first, then about life philosophies and personal journeys. He didn't pry when I mentioned my estrangement from my family, just nodded understanding. "Family is complicated," he said. "Sometimes the healthiest thing is distance." Over the following months, James and I grew closer. He understood ambition and drive because he had plenty of his own. He appreciated my independence rather than feeling threatened by it. Most importantly, he saw me, really saw me, not as the reliable one or the successful one or any other limiting label, but as a complete person with strengths and flaws and dreams. One evening in May, as we sat on my deck watching the sunset over the Sound, James asked about the aftermath of my family confrontation. "Do you ever regret it, going public like that?" I considered the question carefully. I regret that it was necessary. I regret that I didn't value myself enough to set boundaries sooner. But the actual moment? No, I don't regret that. "It took courage," he said. "It took desperation," I countered, "but it gave me freedom." We were quiet for a moment, listening to the waves. "Ashley tried to contact me last week," I said. "She's working retail now. Wanted to reconnect and heal as sisters." And I wished her well but maintained my boundary. Some relationships can't be fixed. Some shouldn't be. James nodded. "That's wisdom, not bitterness." That's when I knew I was truly healing. I could acknowledge the pain of my past without letting it dictate my future. I could wish my family well from a distance while protecting my hard-won peace. I could build new connections based on mutual respect rather than obligation. The saying goes that living well is the best revenge, but I've learned it's not about revenge at all. It's about reclamation, reclaiming your worth, your voice, your right to be treated with dignity. It's about building a life so full and rich that the people who diminished you become irrelevant to your story. My name is Olivia Smith. I'm 33 years old. I live in Seattle and run my own successful business. I once believed family came first, no matter what. Now I know that self-respect must come first, or you have nothing of value to offer anyone else. Sometimes it takes a broken rib to heal a broken spirit. Sometimes you have to lose the family you were born into to find the one you deserve. Sometimes the price of peace is high, but worth every penny. And sometimes, just sometimes, when you finally stand up and declare your worth to the world, you discover you were worth far more than you ever imagined.